Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to episode 18 of Fantasy Film Fights, the show where we take a random film topic and we draft it fantasy style. As always, to my left is my co-host, Tony. Tony, how are we doing today, my friend?
I am doing well. It is Wednesday. It's been a weird day for me. I end up playing D&D for 5 hours, so that's always odd.
Feedback.
I wasn't planning on it. Someone sent me a message saying, "Hey, do you mind just filling in for half an hour?" Like 4.5 hours later, I was like, "Where the fuck is this person? And why am I still here?"
Oh no. Well, hopefully a day turns around. We'll have some fun with this draft. We are drafting documentaries today, and we have a fantastic panel. 3 newbies, 1 returning. The 1 returning is to my right over here. Aaron, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing great. Been a busy day over here. Lots of things happening, you know.
Well, hopefully we can occupy your time for the hour and a half, something like that. We'll have some fun doing it.
Save you from harassing Christina.
You're harassing me. I don't initiate any of that. But hi, Christina, if you're watching.
I'm sure she's out there. Down here in the corner, we've got Jake. Jake, welcome. How you doing, pal?
I'm doing pretty good. I've never been on one of these panel shows. I'm a real newbie, so looking to get my feet wet. And as a result, I'm probably not going to win this poll because nobody knows who I am. But that's fine. I'm just here to recommend good stuff.
They know who I am, so you still got a chance.
That's kind of true. Can't lie. Down below me, I have heard tales of his dominance in the fan leagues, and I have seen his performances. He is one of the more knowledgeable contestants on the Movie Trivia Showdown. Mr. Paul Oyama, how are you today, sir?
I'm doing good. It's a bit different for me talking documentaries. Obviously, those don't usually get asked, so it's fun to kind of step into a realm that I don't normally get to sort of swim in, but I'm excited.
Yep, we're happy to have you. And last and certainly not least, down here in the corner, Mr. Andrew Barr. Andrew, how are you today, buddy?
That
kind of least, but
yeah, maybe, possibly. We'll find out later though once the poll happens.
Yep.
I'm doing good. Just got off of work. As Paul said, documentaries are something that people don't get to normally talk about on these kind of shows. So I'm excited to bring up some things that will educate some people on the world around them.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I can say documentaries is not one of my strengths. I'm looking forward to the recommendations from this panel by way of drafting. Tony, how do we do that? How are you going to decide that?
So the way it works is 5-round drafts. So each participant is going to get 5 chances to throw their options, and then we are going to go in order based on the set. It's been a long day. I'm a professional.
Do you smart toast, Tony?
Pardon?
Nothing.
Yeah, so we got Peggy's going to ask the question now. Whoever gets closest to it gets to choose draft order. And just to say, so the way we're doing this is including any feature-length documentary, anything that's been up for an Oscar or nominated or been eligible for an Oscar. It counts. Concert films also do count. Mm-hmm. So that's the way.
Concept films or concert films?
Concert films.
Okay. Concept albums, actually. Yeah, we'll be drafting the Roots Undone is going to be the
first. All right, so. You missed your chance with not just picking Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. So.
I'm not a big fan of the Rolling Stones, so you know.
We lost Jake for a second. Oh no!
And Jake's already melted.
Oh man, fucking rookies.
We'll give it a second for him to come back.
Hopefully that ice pack does its job. We'll see. Yep. Inside jokes.
Pardon me. So, everyone confident they've got enough titles on their list to get through 25.
I certainly hope so.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. All right. Good to know.
Not very many 24 movies to pick from, so I really had to expand my horizons for that list.
And not Hal Ashby documentaries.
Yeah.
There's only 3. So I have to at least pick 2 other movies.
It's an interesting thing because when I was going through the list, it kind of feels like we're going through a golden age of great documentaries at this moment. Because we have the streaming options and stuff that are able to put money into them.
Yeah, it feels like more of a weird definition of gold is, I guess, Tony. Some of us prefer a more aged variety of the metal.
Are we still talking about movies? Oh, okay, never mind.
I said metal.
So, yeah, but there's a lot. I think you're right. I think we're going through a golden age in the sense of how we come to a documentary. Like word of mouth around documentaries has kind of boomed. And a lot of more documentaries are getting a lot more being seen in the light of day a lot more than they used to be.
I think just prominence in the current culture just because of streaming, because it's so easy to commit to a documentary. I think that it's kind of relaxing for a lot of people too. So that makes sense that something like documentaries would be sort of a big thing in this current cultural moment.
For sure. And with the quarantine going on, it's good to have recommendations of stuff that people maybe had never seen before, never even thought to seek out. So
So my first overall pick, Tiger King.
I was waiting for someone to make the joke.
Sorry, no.
well, you knew it was going to be Tony. All right, Jake, you good?
Yeah.
All right. That's all right. We'll keep our fingers crossed that you stick with us.
In
So-
the freezer, Jake.
Gentlemen, the question to set the draft order. If you were to do a Ken Burns documentary little binge watch, little marathon, if you will, of his docu-series, and you watched his series on the Civil War, followed by his series on the Vietnam, and you capped it off with his series on country music, how many minutes would it take you in total? What is the combined runtime of his series for the Civil War, Vietnam, and country music?
Oh, I have to do maths.
I mean, I have it broken down in hours and minutes. If you want to do it that way, that's fine. If that makes it easier on you.
All three of those.
All three, back to back to back.
I'm just
If
not
you were really serious.
about this one.
How many?
So you
minutes
could just do
would it take?
hours. So just
You can do
we have
hours.
to do minutes. Okay.
You can do hours and minutes. I can
all
break
right.
it down too.
The minutes.
That's
Hours,
not a problem.
right.
Let me change. I've tried watching one Ken Burns documentary and just I don't know what it is about his voice. It just drives me insane.
All right.
What?
Man, I can only get this in minutes. Like, I can't think of this in hours.
That's
This
fine.
guy's on a documentary panel talking about Ken Burns' voice. Not being good.
Don't
Get
check
him
about
out of
it.
here.
Does everyone
And she
have
didn't even
a-
mention his best one. So.
I was looking for the longer ones, just trying to make it harder.
It's
on
Oh
you
no.
guys.
His documentary on Helvetica?
I'm talking about Ken Burns baseball. But anyway.
Yeah, that's
that
what
is
I-
that is fantastic.
That's a good one. All right, everyone's got a guess?
It's about
All right, let's
Yeah.
start with Aaron. What'd you write down?
And our Wesley Snipes, Murder at 1600.
1600. Paul?
Best documentary.
I said 32 hours and 23 minutes.
23 minutes. And Andrew?
I said 1890 minutes.
1890. And Jake, what'd you put?
I said 35 hours.
35 hours. And Tony?
I went 15 hours, 42 minutes, and 34 seconds.
Sir, one of them is almost that long on its own. So we'll see.
Yep.
Let's see. Just want to do one little quick math thing here, real quick.
This is where we see how good Peggy is at maths, because she decided to be smart and go, oh yeah, do hours and minutes. Why not? Do whatever you want.
Shut up. Let's see.
Usually there's someone who I can just hope gets to choose the order, but I actually respect all your tastes.
No, all right. So,
Oh,
Ed.
you fool.
well, 35 hours is the closest. That was Andrew. I believe?
Oh no, that was
That's
Jake.
Jake.
That was Jake.
That was
who-
Jake?
who
Ah,
currently has
35
timed
hours.
out.
Because it is 45 hours and 15 minutes.
Oh my
All
god!
right, what,
So Civil War is like the shortest one then, because I know
Yeah,
that's
if
like
you
11
go,
hours.
yeah, just minutes is 2,715 minutes.
and he's back.
Oh damn, he'll be
So
delighted.
everyone
Jake, you won.
undershot. Jake, you won, buddy.
Yeah. Okay.
No,
Hopefully
don't
this
say that.
isn't a recurring theme. This is driving me crazy.
Did you
That's
see
all right.
that
But
here?
Jake, did you hear us? You won.
I think he just turned on his Windows 98 computer.
So
I feel
awesome.
like a phone.
You think he has like a grassy field as his background?
Yeah,
Jake,
Jake, can you hear us?
Jake, let me. All right,
What?
can you hear us, Jake?
I don't think he can hear us.
I don't think so.
Papa,
Either.
can you hear me?
What I'll suggest is we'll let the second place person choose, and we'll put Jake at the last minute, at last one. Just hopefully his computer can get better for then.
Yep.
Your audio is really choppy on my phone, which is why I have to do it on my laptop.
Like he's gonna
Gotcha.
like, just
But
like.
can you hear us now?
Like, smack.
So,
All right.
ish, it's choppy.
All right. If you can hear me, you actually won the draft order. So if you can, we can hear you.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. All right. So, well, so if I won, then I'm gonna, out of respect for the champ and my fellow Baranski, I'll let Paul go first.
Ah,
Wow.
And then because he's my boss in the Full Metal Writers Room, I'll let Andrew go second.
Champ is not.
And then because he's always goes last, and I feel like it's kind of rude, I'll let Tony go third.
Yep.
And then I'll go fourth.
Oh, nice. Give me that.
give Aaron the
snake.
turn.
Give me that snake, boy.
Yeah.
Give me that snake.
My
That
former
Paul.
teammate here,
That hurt
Lucky
Paul
Tail,
that I
doesn't
got
what
the
he
snake.
wants.
He hates it.
No, it's just man. There's two ways I'm thinking of going, so I'm not
Right.
sure.
So just quickly confirm the order. So Paul's gone first, Andrew second, me third, Jake fourth, and Aaron fifth.
That's what I heard, so that should be good to go. All right, with that, Paul, you're officially on the clock. You have the first overall pick in the Fantasy Film Fights documentary draft.
I feel like the Cleveland Cavaliers in the early 2010s. I'm gonna say
I know you're going.
there's a
Chico!
number of different ways that I could go, and I think there's one that I think would make me more likely to win the poll, but
Do it.
I don't think I could do it but I couldn't do it to myself if I didn't pick this first. With the first pick in the first round of this draft, I'm going with Steve James's 1994 documentary.
God dang
Dreams.
Okay.
It's my favorite documentary. It's one of the greatest sports films ever made. It's emotional and heartbreaking and satisfying, and it's this 2.5 hour journey that you follow these two young men, and you see what their dedication to this game does to them, and how close they come, and how it changes both of their lives. And it's just a flat out masterpiece. One of my college professors was like a line producer, and he tells all these crazy stories about working with Steve James, and I love what Steve James is for documentaries, and this is my favorite documentary ever.
All right, hell of a pick. I should say so myself because I am from Chicago, so I am with you on this one. Jake was worried that he might not be able to pick it up in the 5th round, and I was like, might go a little earlier.
I was hoping you guys wouldn't be stupid.
Yeah, this is a great first pick, Paul. It was on my list, but honestly, wishful thinking to get it because unless I got in the first round. So this is a very popular film in this community as well. So you're safe in the poll. You were already going to win it, but now you got pretty much.
I've made 5 people in this community watch this movie, so that's part of the reason why. I'll take some credit for that.
Yeah, and I mean it explores so many different kind of downfalls of the system that they're in, both within the sport and outside the sport. So it's just it's not an easy watch, but it's a worthwhile watch, and definitely changed documentaries moving forward. So it was my favorite sports documentary. No offense, 30 for 30s, but yeah, good choice.
Yeah, and Andrew had quite the reaction there on that pick.
I knew it was going to happen. I knew it was going to happen, so I'm not that angry, but boy, was I hopeful.
As soon as we said Cleveland Cavaliers and won the NBA, I was like, okay, this is over.
I was gonna say Browns, but I felt like that was kind of a low blow, so I skipped past that.
All right, so Hoop Dreams.
Good
First
choice.
pick overall, gone. Andrew, you are up, sir. What are you thinking?
I'm split between two.
I think I know where he's gonna go. We'll see.
I'm split between two but I'm going to pick this one because I think the second one may be safe for later. I may be able to sneak that one in for my second round. So with my first one, I'm going to go with one that speaks to the hard workers. I'm going to go with one that speaks to my culinary heart. I'm going with Jiro Dreams of Sushi.
Fuck you.
Oh wow,
It's on my list.
I didn't think it was getting picked this early. To be honest, I was
Me
like,
neither.
3rd round, it'll be there.
This is a movie that speaks to anyone who works really hard at that one thing that they really love and they're really good at. It's a very relatable film in that sense. It's a great documentary. Euro is such an interesting, fascinating figure. It's a movie that it's on Netflix right now. If I'm not mistaken, it's still there.
Hulu.
It's on Hulu now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. It's on Hulu now. If you have Hulu, I highly recommend watching this movie. It is a fantastic documentary.
All right. I'm assuming with the reaction there that, especially from Tony, you were hoping that one dropped to you?
Yeah, that one is. But if I wasn't going for another thing for my first round, that would have been it. It's a fantastic documentary about a topic that, especially as a vegetarian, I should have zero interest in. But I just find it so fascinating, just going into their world and just seeing the commitment in it. Just like they're just like, holy crap, I want to work for these people.
The amount of love that he has for his job is just really admirable.
Yeah. If I could be happy with my job 20% of like the way he is in his entire life, I'd be like, I'll be happy as a lamb.
Yep.
You can.
Gotta find the right thing, Tony. Speaking of, you are up next, sir.
Man, that's tough.
All right. So I was going to choose a documentary here first. However, then we decided the rule of allowing concert films. So I'm having to go with the best concert film of all time. This is directed by the director of my favorite film of all time.
Fuck off.
It's not a band that I particularly listen to a lot, but it's just the way everything is just this incredible bit.
I picked the wrong one.
Yeah.
Stop making
Never say
sense.
never. Ah, damn.
Good. Was on my
Making
list.
sense is what you said, right?
Stop making sense. The Talking Heads. No one.
Yeah. Andrew, obviously,
Just talking heads. Sir.
Your favorite film is something wild, right, Tony? I hope.
Yeah, something wild.
Yeah,
So,
I just watched this movie like 2 weeks ago. So I agree. It's great. And I don't listen to Talking Heads either.
I
Shout out
think
blank check episode on this is great.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's kind of a misnomer about a lot of different films, but I think particularly documentaries, people think you have to be directly interested in the subject at hand or directly like aware of it. I think that you don't have to be a Talking Heads fan to watch this documentary and be completely blown away and immersed by it. So it's like I just think that, and with like subjects, it's like, oh, I don't eat sushi, I don't like sushi, I'm not going to watch this movie about a guy who makes sushi. That's such a dumb way of looking at documentaries. I mean, because it's really not, it's pretty surface level. So I would definitely say this is a great pick. Andrew, you screwed up on your pick.
I did, because Talking Heads,
around, I guarantee it.
Talking Heads is my favorite band of all time.
That's
What?
why you're not going
And
with
you
the
did
top.
it.
Absolutely.
Wow.
My favorite band of all time.
Maybe you can work out the first trade ever.
Yeah, you're gonna have
I was honestly just thinking about it. Hey, Tony,
Hi.
you want my
You can
third
work it
round
out in the
pick?
chat. Work it out in the chat if you can
You
work
want-
it out.
You want my third round pick, Tony? I'll give you my third round pick.
Interesting option.
Talk it on the
We'll
chat.
talk. Yeah, we'll talk. Message me.
Okay.
And
You fucked up,
in the
Andrew.
interim, Jake, you are now on the clock. What are you
That's
going
what I was
with?
considering, by the way, with the first pick. That was like,
Okay.
That's really popular.
Stop Making Sense was on my list, but further down. My first pick, I was actually going to pick another movie first. But then as I was falling asleep last night, I was like, wow, I'm an idiot if I don't pick this one first. It's probably the longest entry of all of the ones we're going to pick.
Wait.
It won Best Documentary Oscar in 2017.
Okay.
Even though it didn't, so it is eligible. I checked.
Mhm.
I'm going with OJ Made in America with my first pick.
All right.
And yeah, so I mean, we all think we know the story. We saw there was the FX miniseries about the OJ Simpson trial. But the reason that I love this movie, even though it aired on ESPN and that's how most people watched it, it's about so much more than sports. Really, the sports stuff is only in part one, like talking about sort of what sort of athlete OJ Simpson was. But to me, this is just like the reason it's called Made in America is just because.
Oh,
no!
my God!
Way to go! What a way. Dude,
He was hanging in so well there. Okay, I'm assuming other people had this one on their list, though, right? Am I right? No?
Not as high, but yeah.
I
it's on
haven't
my
seen
list.
it yet.
I haven't
So
seen it either.
Respect to real documentaries, by the way, not like recreations of real events that are 10 hours long. So, yeah.
Well, that's fair. Well, since we lost Jake, might as well move on to Aaron.
Fun fact.
Okay.
The time goes.
Hang on a second. Tony's got a fun fact for you, Aaron.
OJ Made in America is the reason why we're doing this documentary list because Cameron Redshaw used it and we went, documentaries would be fun. Then we forgot to ask Cameron and they put him on last week instead. We put him on last week and then I realized at the end of the show, just like, shit, we did a show entirely because of you suggested something. Fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
So
Cameron, sorry.
there are a ton of documentaries. Most of your picks I've knocked off my list besides that last pick. So pretty good picks. I understand a lot of people really like the OJ one. I just wasn't a fan of it myself. I am going to go with my first overall pick being a documentary. We're on a show that typically talks about movies. So my first documentary will be about a particular movie from the 1970s, directed by Mr. Francis Ford Coppola, and that is Heart of Darkness.
He said Heart of Darkness. That's not the movie. Move on.
It's a Heart of Darkness documentary, I should say.
Hearts of Darkness.
Documentary.
about just the book.
So it's basically, if anybody doesn't know, it's about Apocalypse Now, one of the best films of the 1970s.
I don't know if this is going to keep happening or not.
Okay.
I don't know. I might have to.
You sound fine.
Yeah, you sound fine there, mate.
Yeah.
I might have to drop out of this if this keeps happening.
That's all right. We'll figure it out as we
figure it
go,
out.
buddy.
Yeah, don't worry.
So I may not know the full title of my favorite overall documentary that I'm picking here. Maybe this is a little bit business, knowing what's coming up, knowing that I don't have another pick for 10 documentaries. I'm about to have my heart broken over and over again after my next pick. So it's a little bit of business, but I love this documentary. I am a huge fan of artists just giving up everything for their craft. And it's something that kind of is impossible to do now. But filmmakers like Ford Coppola, who just completely lost their mind, caused their actors to have heart attacks on set. It's insane. And, yes, this movie would never exist with Twitter today. And, with the reactions to different, filmmakers today and their mild forms of what Ford Coppola did, the peaks into Marlon Brando's insanity. This is just what inspired one of the best comedies of all time in Tropic Thunder. It's just a great documentary. Whether you like the movie or don't like the movie, I don't know how you don't like this movie, but it's a fantastic documentary. Just raw interviews, and it's not pretty, but it's fascinating. So that's my number one overall pick for my first round.
All right, Paul, you seemed a little bit upset that went off the board.
Yeah, I didn't think this would go until quite a bit later. I was hoping that the big flashier ones would get more attention. But yeah, this is definitely one of the crazier happening in real time. I think you're just seeing this de-evolution, and it's you don't really believe that everything's happening as it's happening. When they have to go, the helicopters that they film have to go fight in war and then come back and film again. It's you got to watch it. It's crazy.
Yeah, I've never seen it. So, but yeah.
Oh, it's insane.
And it's Hearts of Darkness of Filmmakers Apocalypse. So I apologize. It's a little bit tough to find, but yeah, it's definitely worth watching. And
it's usually on this, but if you buy Apocalypse Now, Blu-rays or 4Ks or whatever, it's usually on there as a special feature. So
yeah, and there are a lot of different documentaries based on movies that are really great. Obviously, I know not to name them right now, but this is by far my favorite one based on a movie. I think it's better than the movie, and the movie's great.
All right. Well, with that,
This was the one.
Okay.
This is the one documentary about movies I considered.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it's a great pick.
Thank
great
you.
pick indeed. All right, that brings us end of round one. Tony, can you give us a recap, please?
So let's bring this bad boy up. Okay, so Paul went first, and he went with Hoop Dreams. Andrew went with Jiro Dreams of Sushi. I always said Gyro because I'm an idiot. I went Talking Heads Start Making Sense. Jake went OJ Made in America, and Aaron went Hearts of Darkness, a filmmaking, blah, blah, blah.
Filmmakers Apocalypse.
There we are.
Solid first round. Aaron,
Thanks.
your girlfriend in the chat is cheering for you. What are you going to take with your second pick?
All right, with my second pick, this is a fairly
That's so
pick
rude.
for me. I had two at the top of my list that I really loved, one of which I'm going to make a gamble on and assume no one's going to take here, so I'm going to leave that one. So I'll say the famous last words. With my pick, I'm taking a pick of a person who suggested more movies to me in this community than anybody else. No offense, Paul, you're close, but it's Adam Collins. This is for Adam Collins, this pick. It's a Werner Herzog documentary about loving what you do, dying for what you do. It's fucking Grizzly Man. What a phenomenal documentary. So if you haven't seen this, I'm not going to tell you much about it, except it's a guy who wants to be a bear and becomes a bear by the end of the documentary. So that's all I'll say. Only Werner Herzog could do this documentary and not have it be just a total parody. You can watch it as a comedy now, but that's only if you're a heartless bastard. This is a real story of a real person who felt like they just didn't belong in this world, and they felt they belonged in this other world that they very much didn't belong in. And you at first are laughing at him, and then you're slowly wishing, I'll speak for myself, wishing you were him in a way, because kind of similar to Euro, Dreams of Sushi, and like other great documentaries, it's about somebody giving all into what they love. And for better or worse, till death do they part. And it's just he's a fascinating character to study, and the perfect filmmaker to study him.
All right. Well, you got a little bit of a reaction. Only anecdote I can offer is that my dog Rory has a sister somewhere in the city who is named Werner Herzdog.
Excellent.
But it looked like you got a bit of a reaction out of Andrew and Paul on that. You guys had this on your list, right?
This is my favorite movie of 2005, actually.
I love it.
Yeah, Timothy Treadwell is insane. And I think one of the most interesting aspects is anyone who's seen it can sort of attest to is the sort of double authorship, because some of it uses some of Treadwell's own footage that he shot. And it's like you're seeing Werner Herzog comment on the documentary that he's making. So it's almost like there's these layers that are going on. And there's a very haunting scene near the end. I won't totally spoil, but it involves someone listening to something. It's an amazing movie.
Cool.
Yeah, and just one last thing about Werner Herzog that I really appreciate about him. He's extremely intelligent, obviously, but he has no like sense of irony when he's viewing his subjects, or like sense of like making fun of them in like a referential or mocking way. Like, he's been friends with John Waters, very famous director, for 35 plus years. Didn't know until 35 years of friendship that John Waters was gay. That's the kind of person that Werner Herzog is. He just doesn't look at people like us humans do. And it's just, he's an incredible mind, both his films and documentaries. I really recommend checking them out.
I'm ashamed to admit I've never seen this movie.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat.
I've never seen it either.
It's on either Prime or Hulu, I
I believe
believe.
it's on Prime.
Yeah.
I will check it out then.
It's very worth watching. If you laugh at it, don't feel bad, but at the same point, it's just a great movie.
All right, so Grizzly Man off the board. Jake, you're here. You're here for your pick. What you got, buddy? Get it out, Paul.
For now. Yeah, so this is my second best documentary winner. It won in 2009 for 2008 documentaries. I'm going with Man on Wire as my
nice choice.
Love Tony Scott.
I've actually never seen Man on Fire. That's beside the point. So yeah, Man on Wire is. I actually saw this movie at a film festival, the True Falls Film Festival, which is one of the biggest documentary film festivals in the country. So I got to see the director talk about this movie, and so anyway, but it's about this guy Philippe Petit, who's a high wire artist. He walks on high wires, and in 1974. He decided he wanted to walk between the two towers of the World Trade Center, like at the top. So basically the movie plays out like a heist where he gets together this crew of his friends to help him break into the World Trade Center and get to the top so they can set up the wire and he can walk across it. And For me, so I'm from the East Coast originally. My mom actually worked in the World Trade Center. So just for me, seeing the World Trade Center portrayed in such a positive light with what we normally associate it with now, it's really moving, actually. And you see the end when he makes the actual walk. It's really incredible to watch. And the director has said that he purposefully didn't put anything about 9/11 in it because he wanted this to be something that people remembered the World Trade Center by. And I just think that the way that it plays out, it uses reenactments perfectly. Usually, like those Ken Burns documentaries, it's kind of when they use reenactments, it's like kind of dry. But this one uses them really well to enhance the story and make it feel more like a heist movie. So, Man on Wire, that's my pick for number 2.
Just quickly, before I'll let anyone else say, in regards to 9/11, the quote I had when I was going to pick this was that the director thought it would be unfair and wrong to the city of New York to infect this story with any mention, discussion, or imagery of the towers being destroyed. So it was done as almost a love letter to the city. And
yeah, and I lived there too for like 6 years, so it resonated on that level as well.
Yeah, it's like crazy that it was from 1974, I believe, and like took till 2008 to have a documentary made about it with the amount of footage that was like available and everything. But I never looked at it through the lens of it redefining the Twin Towers. So that's like a really cool way to go back and visit that movie. That's interesting.
I'm guessing everyone else had Man on Wire at least somewhere on the list.
I had it on my list.
Not as high for me, but yeah, it's it's hard to separate it because I saw it like back to back with The Walk, so it's like those are sort of melted in my brain. But yeah, it's a really good doc.
All right, that brings us to Tony.
It does, and I should quickly announce me and Andrew have to speak. Pardon?
Was there a trade made?
There has been a trade made.
Oh,
So I will be
Good boy, Andrew.
I love it.
So I'm getting Andrew's 3rd round pick, and he's getting start making sense.
Nice.
So for my.
What is that trade? You gave up your first round pick for a 3rd round pick?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I'm.
Listen here, you pancake eating motherfucker. Shut up. Let me have this.
Draft day reference.
I got a plan. So for this one, I'm going to go with the documentary that really solidified my love of them. It was the one that I remember at first really breaking the seal of just like, oh yeah, just being that weird thing on the side that they don't really watch, and then actually being a thing that it's like, oh yeah, it's actually on the TV properly. Like instead of a normal movie, a documentary is on. Holy shit, and it's great. And it made me hate fast food. I'm going to supersize me.
Okay.
You made your trade, and now you're taking it's Tony.
He's taking the sequel with his next pick.
Oh, the chicken
The
one?
second. Yeah.
Fuck you or whatever it's called.
Holy Cluckers, the one back.
Good choice.
But no, this one is
That's
more
your
kind
next
of
pick. You're taking the supersize series.
It's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see how it works out for him.
as I said, this was the one that really broke the glass ceiling off like documentaries, especially over here, being taken as like actual entertainment that will be watched like at 9 p.m.
Yeah, I agree. I want to leave you, Jake. Can I trade
We all just leave.
Can I trade my 5th round pick to you for your 4th round pick?
No. And also, there's going to be another director that's going to probably be mentioned sooner rather than later.
Stop showing your hand.
No, I'm not because I don't like their films. I like Morgan Spurlock a lot more because there's a lot more heart in a lot more calmness to it.
Right, you're talking about the fat guy.
I may be talking about the fat guy.
Yeah.
So like most documentarians, but anyway.
He's from my hometown.
Hey, as long as there's a method to your madness, Tony, I will trust in your endeavors until we see the resulting product at the end of this, I suppose. But with that, unless anyone wants to have another comment on Supersize Me, we can move over to Andrew.
So the thing with Supersize Me is that it wasn't on my list, but it did make an impact on the fast food industry. So I see where the importance lies in it. It wouldn't.
McDonald's really not successful as of now. Yeah, really knocked them down.
Yeah, nowhere near as successful as now. They went from $1 billion to just $500 million. So
That actually would be an enormous
All right.
difference and would probably sink the company.
Yeah, I was about
But
to say.
anyway,
Fair.
Back.
So many people.
So, all right, with my pick, I learned my lesson after the first pick.
Listen to your heart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Rex, I told you that years ago.
oh boy.
I was gonna save this one for my third round pick. Can't do that anymore.
No.
But I'm gonna pick my favorite documentary of all time. I'm gonna pick one based off of. I'm a fan of true crime. I like true crime stories.
Oh, is it?
I really, and this is one of the more interesting true crime stories I know. And a lot of it's animated. I'm going with Tower.
Oh,
Ooh, interesting.
This is about the clock tower shooting in, I think it was Dallas?
Austin.
Austin.
Austin, at the University of Texas.
At the
Yeah.
University of
Oh,
Texas.
yeah.
Yes. And it's told almost entirely through rotoscope. And it is, you hear the stories of the survivors, and it is
Wild.
yeah, it's amazing. Like the story of the survivors, the police officers who were there, and it's just the way that they animated. I think this was the best possible form of animation that they could have used. It's so beautiful. There's one moment where there's one person who's talking about just being wounded and looking up at the sky and how blue the sky is. And it is just, it's both beautiful and unnerving, because it's just a moment where you're just like, oh my God, like, it's an amazing documentary. If you haven't seen it, it is my all-time favorite documentary. I'm going with Tower.
All right.
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, by the way, rotoscope is like what they did with Waking Life and A Scanner Darkly. It's where you draw over the footage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never even heard of this.
me neither.
I would just like sneak through my. Wow.
It's great. Yeah, I also love this movie. As Barr knows, this was like on my top 10 favorite animated, non-Disney animated movies when we did that over on Multiplex.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's super interesting. It's crazy that they have like a lot of this archival real footage from 1966 that they dig up, that they sort of intersplice with interviews and with the rotoscope animation. It's like unlike any documentary I've ever seen, and it's great.
All right.
Yeah, I would echo that too. I've also seen it, and it wasn't on my list, but it's all. I agree, it's really good, and the animation and just it really adds to what would otherwise be a really grim story.
Yeah.
It just sort of gives it some extra life, and
And it makes you appreciate that life more.
Mhm.
All right. Sounds like an excellent pick to me. Finally, back over to Paul. He finally gets another pick. How are you closing out round two for us, buddy?
Okay. I guess continuing the theme of personal favorites and things that connect with us on a personal level. This is one that didn't come out too long ago. And it's one I've already watched like 4 or 5 times since its release. Should have won the Oscar. Unfortunately, it lost to some guy climbing stuff. And it's going to be Bing Lou's 2018 documentary, Minding the Gap.
That's
which
what I
is
was
about.
Obviously, I knew.
That's
Paul,
what I had.
I knew Paul was.
I knew. Yeah,
Jake
me too.
called
Which
that
is why I
one
didn't
coming.
bother.
We let you have this one, Paul.
Yeah.
which is basically it's the story of 3 young men and the story of them and how skateboarding and their friendships sort of shape their lives, and it's evolved into something much different and much more emotionally satisfying. The actual footage of the skateboarding is like amazingly well filmed, and like the cinematography is gorgeous. You see like these shots of hand, because the director is a skater as well, and you can see he knows how to film skating on the move, and you really feel like you're in that world. But just to see these people's lives, because it shows them from childhood into their sort of adult lives, and then just to see how the skating and how their relationships to each other changed so much over that time is amazing and heartbreaking. And it's only 90 minutes if you have Hulu. Unfortunately, I don't think it's super available outside of the U.S. Tony,
I think so.
I know that it was sold on DVD at some point. I saw some like bootleg UK DVDs of it on eBay that I almost bought, Yeah, it's amazing. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's phenomenal.
That's a great pick.
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
thought about taking that one next, but I figured I had to pick my favorite one first. So
Yeah. I don't love it as much as a lot of people. But growing up as someone who skateboarded, I couldn't help but just kind of respond to so many of the characters in that movie and just see where a lot of my skate friends ended up at. It's very similar to a lot. It's just, yeah, it's a really great movie. And again, you don't have to have any interest in skateboarding to find that movie incredibly inspiring, I think.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Cool. That wraps up round 2. Recap time, Tony.
Yep, let's bring this bad boy up. Okay, so just in case anyone, I'll explain the weird colours now for people. So Aaron went first this round. He went with Grizzly Man. Jacob went Man on Wire. I went Super Size Me. Andrew went Tower. And Paul went Man in the Gap. If anyone watching that just came in, so I've swapped my first round pick for Andrew's third round pick. So Paul will do his pick. I'll have 2 in a row. And then we go to Jake, who hopefully will be back.
Let's definitely hope so. With that, round 3 is upon us. Paul, what have you got?
Ooh,
Now I'm scared.
This is really tough.
Yeah.
Thinking of what direction to go in for this next pick. Man. Okay. With my next pick, this is going to be like a very split second last moment decision for me. Is that still going to be there later?
He's just looking.
Is that still going to be there?
It's all right, Tony. Is Christina still flirting with Aaron in the chat?
Yeah. What up, girl? I am okay at best. That was reference to me as a character.
So I'm gonna go with it's a kind of older documentary actually. It's one from one of my favorite film years ever. It's directed by Barbara Koppel, and it's 1976's Harlan County, USA.
nice.
It's a documentary that talks about a coal miners' strike in Kentucky, and it is one of the rawest documentaries that I've ever seen. And I think you see these people at sort of at their wits' end, and you see what it does to such a large swath of people, and the people that you don't really see in documentaries too often. I think it's just it's incredibly heartbreaking and moving, and it's Harlan, Harlan.
Yeah, I was just googling to get the spelling.
Yeah,
Spelling and Tony are not normally hand in hand. So.
Yeah, this is an incredible documentary. If you haven't seen it, like highly recommend. It's phenomenal, and it's crazy that it's as old as it is, considering how relevant it still feels.
Yeah, I've never heard of it. Any of you guys have this on your list?
It was on my short list. I don't know if I would have taken it, but it is a very good documentary, and it's well worth watching. I think this is a solid pick.
Nice.
I've never seen it. It's a bad blind spot for me, but I really want to.
Now I'm thinking I should have waited for it because no one else is going to pick it. Oh, well.
I've never seen or heard of this movie because apparently I suck. So, but I'm adding it to the list here to watch at some point. So, I'll trust your words on it.
That's how the draft goes sometimes. Sometimes something you think is going to go right away
Like picking that
doesn't get picked in the 5th, and vice versa.
in the first round, and he never even leaves his team. It's like, what am I doing? Dwayne Wade. Instead, I took Darko. You took Darko there.
Hey, it still won the championship, so it turned out okay.
I'm a Pistons fan. That's what I have to say every time that's brought up. So thank you.
So now, Tony, you've got back-to-back picks here, yes, with the trade?
I do.
Alrighty.
So I'm going. So when I picked Stop Making Sense, I was fighting between 2. So that's why I was happy to let it go so easily. Because whilst I like the Stop Making Sense a bit more as a movie, this band is a much more greater band. The songs are fantastic, and the story behind it is so much incredible. I'm going with Martin Scorsese directed The Last Waltz.
All right.
Not on my list.
Also, I haven't seen it, but I'm a diehard Scorsese guy. It's one of the few I haven't seen.
This is about the band. The band. It's like you most likely know the song, "The Wait."
Mm.
It's it was their farewell performance together. Scorsese shot it so perfectly, beautifully. That's the one.
Yep. I don't know. I just don't want to get a copyright hit. You know.
And
You are a damn good singer, Peggy.
I suck at singing. What the hell are you talking about?
I'm just lying to you, trying to get your vote.
No.
And like, there's so many people that are in it as well that just to appear and sing along with him. It's so just a great bit of just catching that music of the 70s as well. Like, mwah, chef's kiss.
All right, last waltz. Anyone else targeting this one?
I've not seen it.
I thought about it. It was on the radar, but it wasn't super hot for me.
Gotcha.
Haven't seen it, but the Rolling Stones documentary Shine a Light also is just that I think is the better Scorsese directed.
Wow, no love for Rolling Thunder review. Okay, guys.
I love that. That was in my top last year. I loved Rolling Thunder review. It's great.
All right. Well,
it's a documentary though.
Tony, you said you had a theme going with this one. Did someone just spoil it?
No, God, no. I was joking about doing just taking the series that follows every a child over every 7 years.
Gotcha.
I wasn't doing that. So next one, this is a recommendation. This one, because it is heartbreakingly sad, and you need to be in a particular. I kind of fell into watching this movie just because I heard people say it's the greatest movie of the decade. It's a documentary that's the greatest movie of the decade. How can that be? And it was. I can't recommend it enough. But I also can't recommend it if you don't want to just have your heart broken and just like give up hope on humanity. There's two. I can't take both of the films, sadly, but I'm only going to take this one. It's 2012's The Act of Killing.
Damn you, Tony. Fuck you. You know I was going to take that.
I know.
I picked it on a different show. Fuck you.
Yeah, Jake's not here right now, but I believe this was one of his predictions for Aaron's selections.
Yeah, I was going with
So this is about people that are involved in the Indonesian massacres in the 60s. It's just so heartbreaking, and the look of silence. I don't know if anyone else is going to pick that, but they do kind of go together, and just both of them together is just so heartbreakingly told.
All right.
I think Look of Silence is kind of more of a companion piece, so I think to pick it would be kind of weird. I don't know if that would work really. But yeah.
It wouldn't be very genuine, even for me as someone who's a huge fan of both. You picked the book and not the epilogue. So great choice. It's a really, and we're talking about documentaries, and it amazes me how many documentaries, no matter how old they are, seem to still be really prescient with a lot of their issues. This is no exception. I wish I could take every leader right now who's in charge and sit them down and have them watch reenactments of their crimes and see them talk about them candidly, thinking they're not talking about real life. It's really, really dark, but I think it's an important watch. So great pick.
This is one that I probably would have taken either. This probably would have been a 5th round pick for me if I decided to take it. It is really good. I think there's just like a few more that I would have picked over it, possibly.
All right.
The reason why I took it here is because I think that someone might have taken it like in next round, and there's two that I'm going to say that no one's going to touch.
I was taking it next round. That was my next pick.
So your trade worked out for you, Tony.
Yeah, I'm happy.
Calm down, Tony.
Now.
All right.
Jake is back.
Hey, look at that.
Yes.
Good
It's
time.
a
sir.
different angle every time.
Yeah. Well, so that was. I thought Aaron was going to take that, so it was on my list, but I was like, I'm not going to get it. So I'm going to go actually with another really depressing documentary, except it's much more personal because the filmmaker he made this movie about his childhood best friend who was murdered.
Ooh.
And it was originally supposed to be like this sort of tribute to his friend for his son, his infant son, who was actually, the mother was the person who was accused of killing him. So this movie is called Dear Zachary, a letter to a son about his father.
Oh.
Talk about depressing.
This one I've seen, and yes,
This
you are
one-
correct, sir.
It is the first time I saw this movie. I was sobbing uncontrollably by the end, and I am not a crier. So this movie really got to me. It's just so like you're moved the whole time, but then just the way that things play out. I don't want to give anything away for people who haven't seen it, but it's just really, yeah, like The Act of Killing. You have to be in a mood to watch this, but
Yeah, definitely. won't put a-
ultimately.
Sorry, go ahead.
Ultimately, you come out like this guy's friend, the filmmaker's friend's parents, are like two of the most extraordinary people I've ever seen, like in life, and just seeing them talk and just though they are really inspiring, even though through all the horrible tragedy that they go through, like that they're still fighting for justice for other people who will hopefully be luckier than they were. Yeah, it's just a really moving documentary, and I really recommend it. It's on Amazon Prime if you haven't seen it, but I'm warning you, it's intense.
Yeah, it's definitely not a feel-good documentary at all.
No kidding.
I know I'm really piping it up for y'all.
Yeah, I haven't seen this one,
Yeah,
so I'm gonna have to now.
Yeah,
yeah, it's
It's a lot.
but at least he gave you fair warning on it. So, but yes, I've seen this one, and it is an accurate description. With that, Aaron, I have no idea what the topic of your next choice is, but hopefully, maybe something a little bit more upbeat. I don't know.
No, I'm not gonna
No?
be
Not his style.
maybe on my snake, on the reverse end of the snake. Or maybe
Okay.
here I'm going to take the movie that should have won best documentary in 2017 over that television show reenactment. And we're talking about movies that are incredibly prescient. What's going on in not only Minnesota, all over our country, and has been going on. Police brutality, racial issues. I'm going to just cut to chase. It's the subject is James Baldwin, and the movie is I Am Not Your Negro. I should say the documentary. It's based on its unfinished novel, Remember the House. It basically is Samuel L. Jackson actually narrates. So right away you're thinking, oh, that's distracting. Oh, that's going to take me out of it. Samuel L. Jackson does an incredible job. You would have no idea who the narrator was if I didn't tell you that. It is not distracting at all knowing that going in. But the words that James Baldwin says, he was a gay African-American novelist in the early 40s, 50s, and 60s. And he did not mince words about how he felt about things. And hearing his words, particularly with what's going on right now, it just felt prescient. I rewatched it today, and I cried quite a bit for different reasons. And I am not an easy crier, but yeah, it's just hard to see a movie with a man who's been dead for over 30 years. And it sounds like he is making a comment about what just happened. And he died in 1987 from stomach cancer. So it's like, it's just a crazy, crazy good documentary. It won the BAFTA for Best Documentary. Yet in this country, it didn't win the Best Documentary. So it's just like kind of because I think one of the things about this documentary is it forces you to look at things you don't want to look at and don't want to talk about and don't want to think about, don't want to acknowledge. And that's the entire issue. It focuses, it touches on Martin Luther King and Malcolm X as well. At points and ends up basically talking about one. I could have written down a bunch, but basically one of the particular lines that really stuck with me is the root of white man's hate is terror, and the root of a black man's hate is rage. Both of which they acknowledge have hatred in them, and how they come across and what the motives for which they're instilled in our institutions. Are expressed through those two. But yeah, it's an incredible one. It's not one I hear brought up a lot. And I'm really surprised by that. I think that this is an incredible work. It's got just some incredible interview segments with James Baldwin and just thoughts from a lot of people I really respect. So I highly recommend it.
Okay. Yeah, I can't say that I've seen it.
I will say, unfortunately, I do think that the title puts some people off, which is dumb, but I do think that that's a deterrent for a lot of people. And for anyone who doesn't know who James Baldwin is, he wrote the novel If Beale Street Could Talk, among many others. But that's probably the cultural connection that most people would be able to relate to him. But
it's on Prime. It's on Amazon Prime as well right now.
Got a lot of Prime to watch.
Talk about a movie that it's like, wow, this is from so long ago. These words, yet it's like he's talking about tomorrow. Unfortunately.
That's one of the most interesting things about a really good documentary is that it could tell a story from like 56 years ago, but it could literally be, it's actually about something that's happening right now. It's like that's the way a good documentary can do.
And I do think that the title is for a purpose, and it is not to get as many people as possible to watch it. It's to kind of express a little bit through a title who James Baldwin was. He didn't give a fuck when he was talking. If anything, criticism I've seen about this documentary is that neuters James Baldwin too much, which I was shocked about when reading about that. But that it just makes me want to seek out more of this guy because it's an incredible documentary.
Solid pick. End of round 3. Tony, is there a possibility of actually understanding this recap with the trade that just happened?
Nope. All right, so the way round 3 went. So Paul went first. He went Holland Country, USA. Then I had Andrew's pick, so I went with The Last Waltz, and then my pick for The Act of Killing. Jake went with Dear Zachary, and Aaron went with I Am Not a Negro. Which I say that one very fast because I don't want that clipped.
Okay, so we enter round 4. Anything could happen at this point. No idea where anyone is going with these next few picks. Aaron, kick it off for us. What are you thinking? Where are you going?
Okay. So I am going to make a business decision and assume my 5th round pick, which I would have picked earlier, is going to maintain to the last pick here. So if it's not picked, I'd be really happy if someone else picks it. But I'm going to go with one I think there's a chance that is selected, and also I really, really enjoy this one. I am pretty fascinated with the subject of religion overall. And one of the most wonky religions I can think of to focus on would be Scientology, I think. So I'm going with Going Clear,
nice.
the HBO documentary from 2015. This one is wild. I didn't know anything about Scientology going into this. This is before I saw The Master, which essentially is the version of this.
Don't let them hear you say that.
I'm just saying. It's just my opinion about it, but it's one of these documentaries that as it keeps going, it's like, that can't be true. That can't be true. It is so unbelievable that at points you have to laugh, and then you're kind of feeling bad at yourself because you're laughing about a real story. L. Ron Hubbard is like one of the, I don't want to use the word greatest, but one of the largest con men of all time. He wrote more fictional books than any person who's ever existed, and who better to lead a religion with things like Zulu in them and 10th level, whatever. Like, it's just crazy, and just takes a very, very rudimentary understanding of psychology and has turned it into this super influential force that still, like, some of our greatest, most influential actors are a part of, and no one even talks about it, or if they do, they just kind of acknowledge it and move on. So it's kind of crazy, but yeah, that's my 4th pick, is Going Clear.
I think Peggy silence. I'll take the lead. Anyone have Going Clear on theirs?
No, I like it. I like it.
Honestly,
but it was not on my list.
It's pretty good. I'm not super enamored with it, honestly, but like it's a solid documentary. Interesting subject matter. I just don't know if it's fully satisfying for me.
Yeah.
Honestly, I haven't seen this one, and I kind of don't want to, because one of the most unnerving moments of my life happened as I was walking past the Scientology Center in Philadelphia. So,
yeah,
interesting.
They're definitely.
I'm going to need to hear more about that story at a later date.
I'll tell you later. Yeah, it's super unnerving.
I'll be honest, I had the other Scientology documentary on my list, but very low down. So I was going to mention his by name just in case, but.
All right, so that goes Aaron. We move over to Jake, who is luckily still here. Woo-hoo!
Yes, for now. I'll try to go quick. So my documentary is a pioneer in the true crime genre of documentary. It's directed by Errol Morris, who's one of the most well-known documentarians out there. I think you know where I'm going with this. I'm going with Thin Blue Line.
Yeah, damn it.
Sorry, not
Meltzer
sorry.
and Aaron Jay. Big Terrence Malick fan. Love it.
That makes one of us. Anyway, so did not like Tree of Life at all.
No,
Anyway, so
If they think
that is not true. But anyway, so Thin Blue Line is about this case in, I believe it's Dallas. This guy Randall Adams is accused of murdering a police officer, and he's put away in prison, and he's on death row. But in this documentary, Errol Morris gathers a lot of evidence, and it's pretty clear that this guy didn't do it, and that he was wrongfully convicted. The system let him down, and he basically investigates what really happened, and he basically finds the guy who actually did it. And after this movie came out, this guy, Randall Adams, got out of prison. He had been there for 12 years for a crime he didn't commit.
Wow.
And because of this movie, he was released from prison. And talk about influential. I mean, it's influential in terms of saving someone's life, but also just as a documentary. I think if you look at a lot of the true crime docs that have followed, whether it's anything from Paradise Lost to Making a Murderer,
Yep.
Which Paradise Lost was also in consideration, but I went with this one instead. Yeah, it's just really influential in that genre, and I think it's still arguably the best example of it. So I went with Thin Blue Line.
Good
All
pick.
right. Yeah, I saw Andrew had a bit of a reaction. You were looking for that one?
Yeah, this is when I was this is when I was possibly going to take either in the next round or the round after that. It's kind of an incredible story.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, this is a great pick. Damn you.
All right. Well, I think that brings us to you, Andrew, if I'm not mistaken, with the trade.
No,
No.
it goes to
It goes
Tony.
to Tony? My bad.
Tony.
Sorry.
Anyone,
First time we've
anyone
had
else,
one.
anyone else on Thin Blue Line? Whilst I try and decide what to do.
I probably may have had it as my last.
It's great. It's great.
Not really. No, I had it on my list though.
It's a good.
All right.
It was a good try at buying some time, Tony.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right, I'm going to go with this one. So, a documentary in O'Hare is a gentleman from Northern Ireland called Mark Cutson, who's doing some fantastic work at the moment, and he really primarily works in the art of telling stories about filmmaking. So, something I would highly recommend. I'm not going to do it on here, but Women Make Film. It's a 14-hour series about women filmmakers, and it's fantastic. They do it as a road trip movie thing. It's incredible to watch, and it's on BFI over here. I'm not sure where it is in the States, but the movie that I want to talk about for is his first real one that came out. It's called The First Movie. So what happens is that he grew up in the Troubles. He grew up in Northern Ireland at that time, and the way that he helped cope was via movies. So what he did was went to Iraq, went to a northern state of Iraq, and to a place where they've never seen any films before, showed them a few, and then gave a bunch of kids cameras and said, just go make a movie, go do what you want to do. And just to be able to watch the imagination of a child, just like telling stories, like even though they've been through such horror, just trying to find, like, there's this thing, they have this chicken, and there's just this warmth to it, and this like beauty and darkness type of deal. It's just so amazing. Like, I would highly recommend it. I know it's difficult to watch over here. I had to get a copy of it. I had to dig out my DVD from in here to rewatch it. But if you can watch it, do The First Movie.
All right. Can't say I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, I've never. I know who Mark Cousins is, but I've never heard of that one. That sounds really good.
I've heard of it. I just haven't seen it yet.
Haven't seen or heard of it, honestly. Yeah.
All righty.
I could have done that for my fifth pick, but screw it. Everyone was talking about really depressing stuff. I kind of want to just bring you something just like, it's a bit warmth.
Hey, it works. That's not a problem. I'm just confused as where we're going next. Is it Andrew or where are we going?
Yeah, it's me.
Andrew.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's back to normal now.
Thank you.
I'm split between 3. One of them, I know that if I pick it, I'm gonna win the poll. One of them, I just really, really like a lot, and the other one I think is not only great, but like important and groundbreaking.
Sounds like you want to pick the third one, but
Yeah.
that's just good.
Don't go for the.
You know what? Yeah.
Don't listen to him. It's like the
Having
Packers
heard
trying to
everything-
lose the Bears.
Having heard everything, I think the one that will win me the poll will still be available. Screw it. I'm gonna go with this one.
Right, say it.
We're all on pins and needles here, Andrew.
So my
Sounds
fourth,
great.
so my fourth round pick in the fantasy film fights documentary draft is
What is it?
Jesus Christ. Dude.
Paris is Burning.
Okay.
Okay.
Fuck you.
Yeah, I knew this was, I
What's
knew
on
this
my
was
list?
gonna be I knew this was gonna be on some people's lists.
Oh,
Paris is
no.
Burning. It is such a great story about this community of like gay, transgender, drag, like drag artists, and the sense of community that they build is just so awe-inspiring that it's hard not to connect with anyone at all. You literally really find yourself connecting to all of these people here. Paris is Burning is just a fantastic documentary that I'm gonna steal away from Tony.
That's a good pick.
Well, I've definitely heard of it. I haven't seen it yet. Anyone else have this on their list?
Yeah, also heard of it
Yeah.
and haven't seen it. I think it's on Netflix if I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Believe
better
so.
Prime.
Yeah,
it's
it got put on a couple months ago.
Okay.
it's fantastic. Like it's so. But if you've ever heard any of my stories of gallivanting around when I used to drink, you would hear a lot of them. But was hanging around with drag queens, and so this movie still to them is just like this important milestone of that community. Just like even now they'll just say to anyone asking questions like, "Go watch that. Come back after you watch that. Learn about us." Then, so that documentary does so much amazing work.
Huh?
Yeah, it's a great pick. That was actually one of my backup picks for my last pick, so that's a really good pick.
Okay. After that, rounding out round 4, Paul. Finally back to you again.
Okay.
What you got?
This is tough. There's so many different ways that I could go with this. I'm gonna go with a documentary from someone who didn't always make documentaries. One of the great filmmakers of all time, and it's Orson Welles' 1973 documentary "F for Fake."
Yep, almost had this one.
About two men who are known for forgery and faking art and different sort of things, and explores sort of the people who exploit other people by like using their interest in these ideas and images, and it's just the visual storytelling is insane for a documentary. Like you can just feel that this is a master filmmaker at work in the documentary sphere, and I would have loved to see him make more documentaries, quite frankly. But it's just an amazing, really dark, really film that it's really messed up, the sort of dark side of the human soul. But it's phenomenal, and Orson Welles is obviously an all-time great filmmaker, and this is honestly one of his best films. It's amazing.
If there's anyone who's really good at capturing the darkness of the human soul, Orson Welles is definitely one of those directors. I think this is a fantastic pick. It was on my short list.
All right.
Yeah, great pick.
Anybody else on F for Fake? Excuse me.
That's another one that I really have to see. I watched a different Orson Welles movie the other day, not that one.
It is on Criterion Channel as well.
I know, I watched a different Orson Welles movie on Criterion Channel, but yeah, that one, I've heard a lot of amazing things about that one, and it sounds right up my alley. So that's a good recommendation, good pick.
If I had enough time today, I would have watched that one. It was on my list to watch for this, and it just slipped my hands. Damn it.
Yeah. It's all right. Well, solid round 4. Recap it for us, Tony.
Yep. So for the fourth round, so Aaron went first, and he went with Going Clear. And also just to quickly bring that back.
If it's the same one I know, good for you.
Yeah, well, he is Philadelphia, so it would be Philly. All right, then Jake went next with The Thin Blue Line. I went with the first movie. Barr went with Paris is Burning, and Paul went with F for Fake.
All right, we've come to the 5th round where anything can happen. Paul, set us off. Where are you going?
I wanted to take a bit of a left turn here. I was torn between
left turn.
two movies from a director who I think is doing some of the most interesting documentary work. And you know, it is a documentary. It kind of isn't a documentary, but it is. I'm going with my favorite of the two, and that's Bart Layton's 2018 film American Animals.
Oh.
Not where Andrew thought you were going.
I love
this. Some people might not know it's a documentary. It's sort of half a documentary, half not. It has real interviews with these people, which is sort of a jarring thing in the movie itself. But it's amazingly acted. The scene in the library is like some of the most anxious I've ever been in a movie. It's amazing and really illuminates suburban boredom, like when a bunch of like middle-class white guys are just really bored and they don't know what to do with their lives and they're really directionless. The type of hijinks that they get into, and it's super thrilling and it's great. Like again, some of it is recreation with actors. You have to sort of see it to understand, but I love what Bart Layton does with documentary filmmaking. I was tempted to pick his other movie, but I decided to go with this one. I think this one is more gripping, and I think it's a more satisfying, just overall journey and arc. But yeah, American Animals, great movie.
That was not on my list at all, but it is a great movie. It's produced by MoviePass also. So
yeah, R.I.P.
What a time.
R.I.P. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, me either. I've seen his other movie that you referred to, Imposter, which is very good. Wild story, but no, I didn't even think that was eligible because it has like actual actors in it. But
so does OJ.
Yeah,
It's true.
Acting though, I mean, they're talking heads though. Yeah.
I would say it counts. It does blend a fiction documentary, but there's other ones that are up for grabs that does the same. So I'm not going to pick it, but I know there's one in particular that someone might pick that does kind of blend them well. So,
well, it looked like Andrew thought you were going one way, and then it wasn't what he was expecting. Maybe that's where he's going to go with his pick. What you got?
It is. This person also has two documentaries that I really, really like. One of them, let me just double check it's the right person because sometimes I get these confused. Okay, yeah. But I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to go with the one that I think is going to win me the poll. I'm going to go with the one that is the first time I've ever heard people get upset about something not getting nominated for Best Documentary at the Oscars. I'm going to go with You Be My Neighbor.
He took the low-hanging fruit.
I did take the low-hanging fruit because I want to win.
That is all. I want to win. Mention the second.
Won't You Be My Neighbor? Everyone knows about this one. It's the Fred Rogers documentary. And watching this documentary, you just like
By the way, he does have like more than two documentaries, just so you know.
Well, I know, but I've seen two of them.
Oh, okay.
I just haven't. Yeah. The other one being 20 Feet from Stardom. It's just one of those movies where you just like watch this guy and you're just like, why can't everybody be like you? Like he is one of the most fascinating figures. Just like, yeah, that warms your heart. The Fred Rogers documentary, it just made like everyone I know loved it, and I saw it and I loved it, and yeah, I'm so shocked that I was able to get it in the 5th round, but here we go. It's mine now.
There's a lot of great documentaries out there, guys.
There
First great
are.
documentary ever created, which is how some people in this community will respond to it.
But
I mean, it's great. I think that Mario Heller's telling of Mr. Rogers' life is just as good as this documentary. Like I think it's great. I don't I don't think that there was quite enough of sort of like brave vigor that Morgan Neville approached the documentary with. I think he could have gotten his teeth more into some of the aspects of his life a little more. I thought it was really emotionally satisfying, but overall, I don't know if it was the kind of documentary that I think it could have been. So, which is why like it didn't quite make it.
Right. Which is fair. I want to win the poll.
The all-important poll.
Yeah, well,
Like,
more power to you, buddy.
It did such a good job because Mr. Rogers is completely. This is not a thing over here at all. Like, so they didn't even release the movie over here only until It's a Beautiful Day in the Neighborhood was going to be released.
Yeah.
So they put that on Netflix, and it was just like, and so many people over here watched it, and just like, holy crap, why was he not on TV over here? He's just a pure essence of love.
Like when you watch his speech to Congress, like that's just amazing. Like the way that he was so eloquent about it, and the way that he was able to turn the minds of the people there, it's just an awe-inspiring moment to watch.
Yeah, he's just one of those guys. He seems too good to be true. Like so many times, we lionize these people only to realize that they're kind of garbage human beings. And
yeah, they get all shaked up.
Yeah, but Mr. Rogers
are not garbage, but they're complicated. They're complicated people. You know, they have faults. I think that's a big thing with a lot of those people. Yeah.
But Mr. Rogers, like, seems like he's the real deal, and this movie does a good job of capturing that, and it is very moving. I mean, the scene I go to is the one where there's this, I think this disabled kid comes to the set of Mr. Rogers, and he's like acting out like kind of bringing him into the show a little bit, and sort of bringing him into the world, and it's just the way he's able to do that and just have it not come across as like weird or creepy at all. It's just like that's like a supernatural gift, and like he's one of very few people who has it, who's ever lived. And yeah, I'm a huge fan of the movie, but I figured somebody else would pick it, so I just decided to let it go. I don't care about winning the poll. I'm new here.
Jake, I'm new here at Meltzer. All right, so Won't You Be My Neighbor off the board. That brings us to Tony with his fifth pick.
All right, I think this one is pretty obvious if you know anything about me. This director probably is the most interesting documentarian at this moment in time. He's done this trilogy on like child prodigies and fame, and them reacting to it. And it's so interesting. I'm going for the first one of the three. This is Asif Kapadia's 2010 Senna.
No, you fuck! God!
Dude, I thought
Oh my god! Oh my god!
A little bit of a visceral reaction from Jake, my friend.
Amazing.
Wow.
Tony?
Wow.
I
Tony?
hate you so much.
Surprised he didn't have a Senna shirt on when he showed up.
Yeah, the Life and Time of Alan Senna, F1 driver, probably one of the greatest drivers of all time, who's like, spoilers, but it's his real life. He dies in a crash during a race. It's the story of just like his pure enjoyment of being able to escape Brazil and just be able to just like drive and love it. And it's like, honestly, this trilogy of what SCF has done, Senna, Amy, and Diego Maradona, watch any of those three, they're fantastic.
Amy is amazing.
Yeah, Amy is great. But okay, let me just get my piece in on Senna really quick because it was going to be my pick. Yeah, so like I know nothing about Formula One, and it's going back to I think Aaron was talking about earlier, like some of the best documentaries about things we really know nothing about, and this is like the best example for me. Like I want to, and like it's just I love the whole thing with his rivalry with Alain Prost, who's this sort of robotic French guy with a jerry curl. And he's just like, Senna is just sort of this free spirit by comparison. And he's just one of those like pure racers who just does it for the love of racing and has no time for all like the political BS that can come with a sport like that. And the racing footage in this movie is unreal. Like I had never seen anything like it. I don't know if this is a thing in Formula One where you have the camera in the car, like next to your shoulder in the car, but it's like you're in the car with him as he's driving and you seeing just how gifted he is. It blew my mind. Yeah, I freaking love this movie.
You like the movie?
I'm gonna be honest. I haven't seen this, and I haven't seen Amy either. I kind of wanted to, but I see it's on Netflix, and I will watch this.
Nice.
Yeah, no, I've heard Tony talk about it a few times.
I was gonna say I owed this movie to Tony. If it wasn't for Tony, I would not have seen this movie. I would have just continued to glance over it. Incredible! It's an incredible documentary. I couldn't take it from you. If I had all wanted this pick, I would have picked it in the first or second round, thinking you were taking it though. But I guess you just figured no one was gonna take it.
Pretty much.
This is the problem with being new here, is I didn't know that Tony had such a love for this movie. Otherwise, I would have taken it in the last round.
That was what I figured was the inspiration for this whole show. Is he was like, I want to pick Senna for something. So.
Sounds about right, actually.
Yeah, maybe.
Best movies with yellow posters come in next week.
Okay.
My plan's ruined.
Oh, there's another documentary I almost said that has a yellow poster. So
Don't give it away too early, because Jake is up. We still got
Okay,
two more picks.
so you stole my pick that I was going to make. So I'm going to go with a different one. It's actually my third movie that won Best Documentary, and the second one I saw at a film festival. This one won for 2012, and it's my music documentary that I'm putting on here. It's called Searching for Sugar Man. It's about this sort of mysterious musician from the 70s. His name's Rodriguez, and he's just this incredible artist. Just some of the songs that he has are just so good. And he was nothing in the States. He made 2 albums and they just did not sell here at all. But somehow his music got to South Africa and he became a huge star in South Africa. And they all loved his music, but nobody knew who this guy was. They just knew his name was Rodriguez. And so this movie is sort of for at least the first half of the movie, it sort of plays out like a mystery where these 2 guys in South Africa are trying to find this guy Rodriguez. What is his deal? We heard that he killed himself on stage. I want to know. We want to know anything about this guy, and just the way that it plays out is really cool. Spoiler alert: he's not dead. He was at this screening that I went to, but he's just he's so humble. He's from Detroit, so he's just living a working class life in Detroit, and when they found him ultimately. And
I was gonna say, you should tell him you found the guy at the screening. You're like, hey guys, I found him. He's right here. He's right here.
It's like Where's Wally? Sorry, Where's Waldo?
But yeah, so this movie is just the music is great. This guy's music's incredible. The story is just it's too if you wrote this as a script, people would say it's ridiculous. And it's just this really inspiring music documentary. And he just seems like the most humble, sweet guy. It was he would. When he was playing in the 70s, he would have his back turned to the audience because he was so shy. But then he sort of comes into his own when these people find him and bring him to South Africa. It's a really inspiring movie, and it's my music pick because Tony took the one I wanted.
The sweet music of Formula One.
All right.
Sorry. I'm not, but I am.
Searching for Sugar Man. I've heard the name before. That might just be me voting on Oscar ballots and stuff. I'm not sure where I've heard it, but I've heard it. I haven't seen it. Anyone here seen that one?
I saw it. It was on my list.
Yeah.
It was on my short list.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Sweet. All right, that brings us to the end. Aaron.
Yes.
Hang on, Tony, you got something or?
No, I was about to say. I thought you were going to say this is the end. And it was like, no, we got one more.
Yeah.
Oh no.
I was jumping the gun.
And I was phrasing incorrectly. Aaron, you're up.
This is super tough, but I wanted to pick a very beautiful and inspiring pick for my final pick. So I'm leaving off a ton of documentaries I love. So we'll mention them in honorable mentions, I'm sure. But I am not picking the Hal Ashby documentary. So, right there, everybody's shocked. It is not an A24 documentary. It's a documentary about a German dance choreographer who goes by the name Pina Bausch. And this, the name of the documentary is Pina. This is directed by Vince Vender, one of my favorite directors ever. He did Wings of Desire, as well as Paris, Texas, and a few other films of note. This was a documentary that he originally started with Pina. She died very early into the process of the documentary making process, unexpectedly. So this turned into from kind of a career eulogy into an actual eulogy. It's almost all dancing. When it's not dancing, they take a really interesting approach to the interview process rather than the people talking. It's voiceovers with the people almost looking like they're listening and reacting to what's being spoken about Pina. And then it enters into a bunch of different dance segments with different dancers who Pina worked with throughout her life. It's the best soundtrack for a documentary ever. I don't buy a lot of soundtracks, but I bought this immediately after watching this. It is currently on Criterion Channel. When it was released in theaters, it was released in 3D, and Vince Vender actually used the 3D like properly and like respectfully. And it's a movie I didn't know anything about going into it. I don't know anything about German dance choreography, and it is incredibly
Surprising.
It is gorgeous. And also it's Vince Vender. So go watch Vince Vender, whether it's his movies or documentaries. He is awesome. So the name of it again is Pina, and it actually lost this Searching for Sugar Man at the 2012 Oscars for Best Documentary. So it's a very unique documentary. It's almost all dance and just really makes you inspired into how much one person's impact can have over a huge group of people. One of the dancers at one point says that people always said that a part of Pina was dancing each one of us when we were dancing, but really a part of us was dancing with Pina. When it was something, I just butchered the quote, but it basically reversed the whole, like a part of us is expressing and reversed into the artist being the part that's being expressed by the people. So
Sounds interesting. I've never heard of it.
it's called Pina. It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But wait, what's the name again? You didn't mention it during the
I've heard of the title. I just never knew anything else about it. But
I didn't know anything about going in either. I just, as soon as I saw Vince Vender, I decided to watch it, and it's become.
Yeah, I've heard of it too, but yeah, I haven't seen it either.
Yeah, I think I actually heard it from you, Aaron, but I've never gotten around to it.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
All right. Well, with that, that's the end of the draft. Tony, let's recap everyone's team, see how everything's shaped up here.
Yep, let's bring up this weird, confusing. All right, so Paul went first. He went Hoop Dreams, Man of the Gap, Harlem Country USA, F Fake, and American Animals. Andrew went second, and after trading his first round, he got Gerald Dream, Sort of Juicy, and Stop Making Sense, Tower, Power is Burning, and Won't You Be My Neighbor. I ended up with Supersize Me, The Last Waltz, The Act of Killing, The First Movie, and Senna. Jake went with OJ Made in America, Man on Wire, Dear Zachary, The Thin Blue Line, Searching for Sugar Man. And then Aaron went with Hearts of Darkness, Grizzly Man, I Am Not Your Negro, Going Clear, and Pina.
Tony, I hope there was some cash consideration on that trade. Otherwise, I don't know how you would have done that, but that is all right. So there were a lot of documentaries that were left on the board. I am assuming that there are a few that you guys wish you would have had. Aaron, name a couple of your honorable mentions. What just barely missed it?
So real quick, I'll go with two of my favorite filmmakers of all time, Jodorowsky's Dune. I wanted to pick it so bad. Talk about a psychedelic hyper dream of a movie that never got made, but there's tons of great production details and Jodorowsky talking about himself, which he can do forever. So check that one out. Then two filmmaker documentaries, the Hal Ashby documentary. I like Hal Ashby. I don't know if anybody knows that about him. And this is all about the man, the myth himself, and just his eventual unfortunate too quick downfall. But it's a great movie. And then also De Palma, which is on a Netflix right now. It's just a great little view through a very misunderstood filmmaker by a lot of people. So those are just a few. I have way more than that, but you don't want to hear me talk anymore. So those are 3.
All right, Paul, you got a couple you want to throw out there?
Yeah, there's one called The Work from 2017. That's about a reform prison, and it's these people who go and visit the prisoners who are going through this like emotional rehabilitation program. I would highly recommend it. It's super emotional, amazing movie. I wanted to pick The Kingdom of Dreams and Madness, decided against it. It's about sort of the history of Studio Ghibli, and it's a lot of interviews with the people that founded it, and sort of the nuts and bolts of the whole thing. I was thinking about picking Dave Chappelle's Block Party as like my concert film, which like is an amazingly the musical performances and just the entire story and the fact that this block party came together. And then I thought about picking Showa, decided against it, but that is essential documentary filmmaking.
Well, that would have beat me for longest one.
Yeah, that's what I thought you were picking, to be honest.
I know, and as a Jew, right? You would.
Glad no one picked Tribe of the Will, so we're good. Andrew, you have a few there on your honorable mentions list.
Yeah, if Won't You Be My Neighbor had been taken, the next one I was going to take is Exit Through the Gift Shop. Another one I could have picked to win the poll was March of the Penguins. Icarus is a really good documentary. If I wanted to be really pretentious, I would have picked Man with a Movie Camera.
Yeah, that's not pretentious.
I don't know what that is.
It's film history, man.
Yeah,
it's from the 20s. Ziga Vertov, man. It's great.
Yeah, pioneering filmmaking in that one.
That's
a good one.
Good to know.
A really entertaining music documentary is Anvil, the story of Anvil. And the last one, Grey Gardens, now that I'm thinking about that. And The Aristocrats.
Oh my God, yes. I love that movie.
Oh God, how did I forget about that? Just so I could have done an Aristocrats joke.
I know, right?
Those are good ones. Jake, I'm sure you've had a few that just missed the mark or just didn't make the list.
Yeah, so being a huge sports guy, I really wanted a sports documentary on there, and Senna was going to be my pick. But my backup was When We Were Kings, which kind of has some stuff in common with The Last Dance, which is like the hot thing right now. Was the hot thing recently in the sense that this guy had been sitting on this footage of the Muhammad Ali George Foreman fight for 20 years, and had been trying to get it made into a movie, and it wound up becoming this movie When We Were Kings. But I ultimately went against it because it would have been yet another one that won Best Documentary at the Oscars, and I didn't want to be so down the middle. But it's great, and it's like Ali, like peak Muhammad Ali, just like at the top of his game, both in and out of the ring. And then another one I had was Three Identical Strangers.
Yep.
Which talk about you can't believe this is true.
Right.
This movie, I try to go in knowing as little as possible, but trust me, it's wild.
I feel like that's kind of like documentary fast food, though. Like, it's super interesting, but it doesn't really. It's not provoking very much. I think ultimately it's just like a fun roller coaster ride.
No, it's not a deep movie necessarily. It's just a really fascinating story.
It's fucked up.
It is fucked up. And then, Act of Killing was mentioned earlier. I was thinking about its companion or sequel, The Look of Silence, which is arguably better and sort of more. More personal because it's mainly follows this just one person instead of going around and talking to these monstrous people and having them reenact their deeds. So it's a much quieter movie than Act of Killing, but it's no less moving. So that was in terms of and then one other one I had was another really depressing one. It's called Capturing the Freedmans.
Oh yeah, I had that on my list.
Yeah, so it was nominated for Best Documentary. It's on HBO. It's about this. So this is an example of a movie that, and this is such an interesting thing about documentaries. A lot of times they start as one thing and become something entirely different. So like this movie started out, the filmmaker went and was making a documentary about birthday clowns, and
That one.
he ran into this one guy who's a birthday clown, and he got to talking about his family, and he's like, oh, I have all this home video footage of my family. And it turns out this guy's dad and his brother were accused of molesting a bunch of kids. And you get, as they're going through this trial, you get a lot of this home video footage of them, just like how they're dealing with it. And it's really crazy. Like, just the story is just so depressing, but it's really, really well done, the way they use the home video footage. And it's another one that's a tough hang, which is why I only put one really tough hang in my list. But I would really recommend watching it. It's another really good story, and unlike Three Identical Strangers, this one does go deeper, I would say, thematically.
Okay. Tony, the man who stole Senna from Jake. What did you have? What did you have on your honorable mentions list?
Yeah, I'll just quickly run through a few of these. So I mentioned Amy and Diego Maradona as that trilogy. I suggest watching all three of them. Sticking with Asif, he executive produced Supersonic about Oasis. If you are, it's a great music documentary about a band that was at one legitimately the biggest thing in British history at one point, and then like after like 6 months, just completely just like it's pissed all the way. Great. Another music documentary.
Man,
it was ridiculous. Like, I'll talk for that. Perhaps
they are wild dudes.
Oh yeah,
these guys.
Another music documentary. Well, two Eagles of Death Metals. Muslims. I completely butchered the name, but it's the one about the after the Bataclan attacks. But legit about the band, about their experience being on stage when the attack happened and stuff like that.
I didn't know that was a thing.
It was.
Well, I know the attack was, but I didn't know there was a documentary.
Yeah, it's really interesting. And the other one to go with that is a long time running about the tragical hip. I knew nothing about the band before watching that, and it's literally like, oh, this is a fantastic band. Oh God, this story is beautifully horrible. If you don't know it, the lead singer was dying of brain cancer, and like he did his final tour, and literally the whole country of Canada just came out and just like, you are, like, we love you. Jerry Seinfeld, the comedian. Great. Wrestling with Shadows by the Bret Hart. And then last one, it's a movie about cricket, The Edge.
On brand there, Tony.
Yeah. I will say, just real quick, I did forget too. Citizen 4, which is about American hero Edward Snowden. Crazy to see that story develop in real time. And there's one called No Home Movie, which is by legendary filmmaker Chantal Akerman. She's interviewing her grandmother about her sort of impending death, and it's really haunting because Chantal Akerman committed suicide not long after No Home Movie came out. So it's to see her thoughts about life and the ending of it take on a whole new meaning when you realize the irony of the entire thing. It's really dark, but it's beautiful and reflective about just our experiences as people on this earth. It's amazing. Highly recommend.
Also just a few from the chat. 13th, which Garth and Mario both mentioned. Blackfish, it's been talked about a bit. And
go ahead.
Cameron Hudson, Chasing Happiness, the Jonas Brothers documentary.
Oh wow!
I'll be honest. That's a very good documentary. If you are into music documentaries, that's a fantastic watch.
Really,
it's surprisingly well done. And
I prefer the documentary Camp Rock about the Jonas Brothers and their brief tenure as Connect 3. No.
God.
Oh my God! I forgot about that.
So that about wraps it up, I would say, Tony. Anything we gotta discuss before we do the plugs?
No, nothing. Let me just quickly pull up to see what happened with last week's poll. But feature presentation, FPTL should be this Sunday. So put your names down. People are still going on. This Friday, FPP Live returns. The Bastard Child of MBE Live. We're going to do that a little time for us, UK. And then Champs Lunch is on. They should have a special guest. I'm not sure who it is. It might be someone on this call. I'm not sure. Is that
Andrew?
I have an announcement to make. I've been being courted by quite a few teams.
Yep. Aaron's been picked up by corruption. It's weird. But yeah, so watch them. Please like, subscribe, do all the things. And yeah, thank you very much for everyone watching. And let's go around the table and plug.
Yeah. Paul, you got anything you want to promote?
Mostly my Letterboxd. Just search for my name, Paul Oyama. You'll see me talking about movies and watching nothing but certain movies for the last month and for the next however foreseeable future because things. But yeah, that's mainly the main thing. Just can be up there, talk about movies, review movies. You know, you'll see what I watch and what I like. So yeah, that's me. Mostly the big thing.
Sounds good. Mr. Andrew Barr.
I'm also on Letterboxd. Find me there. I'm on Your List Sucks tonight. We're doing summer songs. So get ready to see my my interesting taste in music.
Kids Rock to Be Home Alabama #1.
What's that?
Great, it's a good song, honestly.
Yeah. It's actually no. Ought has my #1 song. So
Good to know. Jake, I'm new here. Meltzer, you got anything to plug?
Not really. I mean, I'm on Letterboxd too. Just yeah, I guess search my name if you want to find out what sorts of movies I'm into. Yeah, that's really all I got. I'm not super active on social media.
No worries.
You might be hearing from me in another league pretty soon. You won't. By that point, you might not get enough of me. You might have too much of me, honestly. So see about that. Just a tease.
Oh, look forward to seeing that. Aaron, I know you got a couple things to plug. Go ahead.
Yeah, I definitely have a few things to plug. First of all, my Letterboxd page, Incubrooks, INCUBROOKS. I'm on there like 3 times a day throughout this quarantine. I'm going all over the place on movies. So if you want a random person on your movie list to add some weird movies once in a while, that could be me. Other than that, I'm starting a new UFC podcast. It starts in about 20 minutes. So if anybody who's listening or interested, it's called Fight Bananas, and we'll be live in 20 minutes. So that's the new thing. It's a UFC breakdown podcast to be around. But besides that, got nothing else.
All right, cool. And as for me, I am at Peggy B-Ball across all media platforms, or social media platforms, if you will. And you can catch me here every Wednesday, co-hosting Fantasy Film Fights, where next Wednesday we will be drafting film nerds. Your favorite ones from the films. It'll be a fun one. We'll see you then.
Paul, Tony, we all count.
Yeah, we could all easily be cast in this.
I made a cameo in the original Creed, so I count as a film nerd.
I'm in Creed too, so
it'll be an interesting episode. So for Paul, Andrew, Jake, Aaron, and Tony and myself, we'll see you next week. Bye, guys. Be safe. Wash your hands.